Hi, welcome to RCKicks. On today's show, well, it was supposed to be a super exciting one for you. I'm getting something back in the collection that I thought I never would. I sold my Predator X10 to RCIcon quite a while ago, maybe a lovely offer, and I couldn't really turn it down, so off it went, but I've missed one for so long, so I've kept my eye out for one, and I found one, and I won it. Yes, it's the XRS, which is the basic version of it. And quite rare apparently, but I'm sending it back. So if you want to find out why I'm returning this, stay tuned to find out. Also, I have something amazing to show you at the end of the video, and you definitely want to stay for that. Hit it, Charlie! So yes, I have a Predator back in the collection, but only for a very short period of time, as I'm packing it up after this and I'm returning it to the owner. Such a shame, really gutted. Now the story behind it was, I saw it come up on eBay and I watched it and I waited and I saw it and I thought I'll put a bid on it, and I put my price in and I did actually win it. So I was super chuffed. So I went and sold 4 other cars to cover the cost. Yeah, what have I sold? The C11, that's going off, but PayPal's being a pain. So that's been sold. Also, Andy bought, what did he buy for me? He bought 2 cars for me. The TD4 Avanti went, and also a 2011 Avanti. So they went off, so that's 3, and there was one more car. What was it? I can't remember now. Anyway, so I covered it, so I was really chuffed. Part of the reason is that I've got over 100 cars now, and I'm trying to think, I can't really add any more, so to try and boil them down and get more specialized cars to make it a bit more interesting for the channel, to show you cars that maybe you won't get yourself. So I talked myself, that's my justification of spending this kind of money on this, and I love these. These are absolutely beautiful, stunning looking, and unfortunately, because of the way they're managed, we're never really going to see one again, which is a real shame. So they're getting hard to find. Now the problem is that these demand big money, so it is worth putting effort trying to put one back together again if you've got the parts, or you've got one that's not that great and you try and restore it, but parts are difficult to find, so there's a bit of make do and mend in there. And on looking at this one, it didn't come with any tires, so once I got it, I put these tires on it. So I took the rear hubs off, and the rear actual hub is supposed to have 4 notches cut into it so that the wheel fits into it, so when it rotates it's obviously not slipping or anything like that. Then it turns out that the front ones are correct, but the rear ones are wrong, and also the rear nuts are 8mm and the front 7, and I was pretty sure that that wasn't the same on my last Predator. So I started looking into it, asking around on the Predator Facebook group, and then it turns out that the reason they're on is because the rear drive shafts are not from this car, they're from an earlier one. So of course, if you use the wrong drive shafts that are 8mm not 7, you can't use the hubs because the diameter of the hub is different. You'd have to drill it out, and that would be crazy. So to make it look like a shelf queen, so you could just put it on the shelf with wheels on it, the hubs are then from the wrong one. You just tighten it up. Now they are on and it sits and it rolls, but if you apply power to it, they would just slip. So when I started looking at that, then I'm like, oh, does that mean the rear uprights are wrong because the bore size is going to be different? Now it turns out that's just bearings. So as far as I can tell, you just have to change the bearings to different diameter bearings, and that would fix that problem, so you don't have to take the hubs off. But on these cars, trying to find rear drive shafts in the UK and rear hubs is not as easy as you think. Also, the price of these parts is very expensive, so before you know it, I'm spending at least another £100 odd on it. So I started digging into it a little bit more, and there's a few other things that I am not personally happy with. One, see that there, the pin that goes through to hold that up. On this side, it's just a nut that's kind of put in. I don't know if you can see that, doesn't look right. Also, when you go around to here, That looks like a reverse nut. And then when you look at the actual hole, I don't know if you can see that, it doesn't come through the actual arm, so it's just a bolt that's gone through, and that's just sort of sitting there. So, you know, there's quite a lot of little things. Flip it over, and then when you look at the steering, you can see that that is sloppy as well, so I'm not sure what's wrong about that. This arm is definitely being cut here because it's from the other side, so it's been flipped over to be used. Now that might be standard, but I'm not sure what's going on with that and why. There should be some kind of bearing or spacer or something in there as well. So it all, for me, feels very much like it's been kind of put together to sell on really with the parts available. Also, there's like old parts that are worn next to brand new parts that have been replaced. Now you can kind of understand, obviously these are not brand new, they've been around for a while, so they all have a story, and putting one back together again from parts can end up making you quite a bit of money if you've got lots of little bits and pieces in your collection. And it's a real shame because it's close, but you know, if it was in the description of that's what it was, then you knowingly buy it and you price it accordingly. Now you could argue that the price that I paid for this was basically for what I've got, but for me it kind of leaves me a little bit. So I decided, unfortunately, I did look into whether I could get these parts, and I probably could. But then looking down it and all the other little bits and pieces that I'd have to, it's just put me off, really. So I'm going to return it. But the thing that's a real shame is obviously I sold 4 other cars to cover it. So yes, I'll have the money from it. But what I really wanted is a Predator, so I'll have to go back to looking for a Predator, or maybe a Dogfire, maybe that's something like that. But it's a real shame. I'd love to add one of these to the collection. So there you go. That's kind of my story of my Predator faff. Now, don't go over and, you know, if you look around, yes, you can find out who sold this. To be fair to the seller, his communication has been really good. He hasn't been funny about it or anything like that. It is what it is. I just wish it was in the description. It was a bit more clear of what actually it was. Because to make these work, you've got to drill them out because they're 8mm instead of 7. So obviously to fit these on, that had to be done. So that had to be known about. So it was, you know, it wasn't like, oh, I didn't know, I just bought it and sold it on. So... But obviously, you know, he is, you know, returning it, and then I'll get my money back and stuff like that. It's just a lot of faff. Anyway, that's enough negativity. Let's look at the positivity. I've got something so cool to show you. It's this. Look what's just come back from Carlos. Oh my God, it's amazing. Now, I obviously, if you don't know the backstory to this, this was gifted to me, this kit, and I wanted to really do it justice on the show. So I contacted the best figure painter that I know, and that's Carlos. I'll put a link in his description. And he's had this for the last couple of months and painted up this driver, and it looks absolutely stunning. His work just blows me away completely, and it's perfect for this kind of car because obviously I'm going box art, so being black, having a real colourful, making a feature of the driver himself. Then what I'm going to do, obviously I've got to polish it up a little bit as well, put the decals on it. I'm going to buy the metal roof, that expensive one. Yes, quite a lot of money, and it should be hopefully the best Blazing Blazer that's been built, brand new in box. Now if you haven't seen the videos for these, I'll put a link up here, go check them out. But I am blown away and I can't thank him enough. Now if you contact him, don't expect him to charge you £20. This takes hours and hours and hours of work, as well as this is not the original head, this is a very sought after head as well to give you the extra detail. But if you want the best quality in your RC, Carlos is your man. And he didn't pay me to say that, and he charged me full price too. But his work is epic, and I have all the time in the world for him. Right, there you go. Thanks very much. Please like and subscribe. See you on the next one, as this will be back on the show shortly. Blah, 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 blah.